Well, we're in part 3 of this series, Brave, and on this journey that we're on together, we're focusing in on our relationships, specifically the relationships closest to you, closest to me, our friendship circles, our family circles, our immediate family circle. And here's what we all know: the closer the relationship to us, to you, to me, the greater the joy, the greater the life-giving relationship we experience. And when there's a divide between those relationships, the greater the hurt, the greater the pain, the greater the distance that's created. And for all of us, we have gone through, and probably right now, if your life is looking kind of like my life, you're going through at least one relationship, close relationship, that is causing some pain. And in this series, we're following along in the storyline of a guy named Joseph. And Joseph was raised in an extremely dysfunctional family. What we saw, specifically in part 1, right? Joseph did some things to create a mess relationally. Last week, his brothers did a whole bunch to create a mess relationally. And where we paused in the story, was right here, that the Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. His name was Potiphar. Now, the key word there is prospered, so let's just put it right there, because I want you to stay focused on that word prospered. Okay, got it? Well, the next thought right after this is what we're told in verse 3. When his master saw, Potiphar saw that the Lord was with him, key word, with him, and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did. Now let's take the word success and put it right underneath prospered. It's an amazing insight. Joseph prospering, Joseph experiencing success. But if we were part of part 2 last week, you know this part of the story. Joseph's brothers betrayed him. I mean, they really betrayed him. They plotted at first to kill him, and then they plotted to sell him into slavery, which they did. He was enslaved by the Ishmaelites, the Midianites, and taken to Egypt. And then he was sold a second time to Potiphar, which means he was enslaved a second time, now to Potiphar. And Joseph's entire life was severed. I mean, severed from his relationship with his dad, severed from his relationship with his brothers, severed from his home. I mean, he probably never been to Egypt before. He didn't know their culture. He didn't know their language. He didn't know their customs. And now he's living in this foreign land, severed from his coat of many colors that his dad had given him, severed from, his dreams, severed. But yet, we're told that he prospered and he experienced success. Do you feel the tension in this story? Do you feel the tension within these relationships? Do you see how messy life is for Joseph? But here's what we all know. We've gone through messes like this as well. Maybe you're in one right now. And have you ever found yourself in one of those messes and asked, have you ever experienced a season of life where you wanted to tap out? Have you ever asked yourself, have you ever asked God, God, I just want to tap out. I'm just done. The mess is too great. The divide is too wide. The pain is too pressurized. I mean, you're just at that place in that relationship where you're like, God, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm tapping out. This is way too much. I mean, maybe it's a friendship relationship where you just want to tap out the friendship. Maybe it's a longtime friend, someone that was in the inner circle, and now you're just like, I want to tap out. Do Do you want to tap out with a family relationship? Maybe it's an adult child, and you're just tired of their mess. You're tired of them making unwise decisions. Maybe it's a spouse. You're trying to save the marriage, and they don't want to save it. Do you want to tap out of a job? I'm not talking about the grass is always greener and you're always looking for another job because every manager you worked for is stupid. Now, I'm not talking about if that's you. I'm not talking that situation. I'm talking about that job you've given everything to, and you're just done. You're done trying to give your all to someone who doesn't really want to, have you give your all. You're done with the lies. You're done with the shady deals. You've tried everything. You want to tap out. Have you ever wanted to tap out with church? It's real, isn't it? Why? Because church isn't a building. It's a relationship. And here's what's real for me. And this is not for you to feel bad for me at all. I'm just telling you what's real for me. This is my complicated relational life. My job is the church, which is relationships. Friendships. All three of those are interconnected. And oh, by the way, my family is part of the church. My entire life is layered together. And I, many times, have wanted to tap out. I've told God this. Hey, God, gave my best, gave my all. I've served you faithfully. Just put me out to pasture. And I wonder if Joseph was there. Because I know I've been there. And more than likely, not only have you been there, maybe you are there right now. Now, let's look back to these two uplifting words. Prospered and success. There's two realities that we see we see throughout the stories of the Bible. Maybe you've never thought about this before. Maybe you have never spent any time just layering this into your reading of the Bible. But this is so foundational, not only for you to study the Bible or stories like Joseph that we're going through here in this story, Brave, but it's important for you to realize this is true for your spiritual journey right now. And they get connected to prospered and success. You see, the first reality is divine sovereignty. It's a really big two-word phrase. What I simply mean is God's part. Joseph experienced success. He prospered, and we're told clearly that, God was with him. That's divine sovereignty. That's God's part. And over again, we see this in the storyline of the Bible, that God is going to do everything that he set out to do. He's going to do everything he's promised to do. That God is at work. I mean, he was at work thousands of years ago, and he's at work today. It's God's part. And again, Joseph experienced success, and he prospered. Why? Because God was with him. And this "and" is so important for your life, for my life, and for, Joseph. The second part, it's human responsibility. Joseph showed up. He worked hard. He showed up to work early. He did the little details. He went the extra mile. He treated Potiphar, his boss, his master, with kindness and respect. He did his part as God did his part. And as we make our way through this story, and in fact, the rest of the story of Joseph, I just want you to look at both of these together, and when it comes to your life. Because God wants to do what he's going to do, but he also allows us to do. And sometimes, God just kind of sits on the sidelines until we decide to join him. Sometimes God decides to take the long road around. Why? Because we're just doing our own thing. I mean, ask the Israelites. He waited 40 years to finally get them to the promised land. Why? Because Well, God was going to do what he was going to do. He finally got them to the promised land. He just waited. He's patient 40 years until they realized their responsibility. And you're going to see this take place in this next part of the story and beyond. Now, in the series, we're looking at 5 very specific actions that create divides, that create pain, that create hurt, that create shrapnel in relationships. Last week, part 2, we looked at betrayal. And today, I'm going to give you the next one right up front. It's resentment. And I'm giving you this one now because betrayal is like a sledgehammer. It just smacks you in the forehead. You know it's there when you think about the story with Joseph and his brothers. I mean, you see betrayal, but resentment is so subtle. It's so quiet. It whispers. Again, betrayal screams at you. I can't believe that you would. But resentment, it's just that little voice in our mind. It's that little voice stirring our emotions. And what is it saying? Well, I think this kind of classic definition of resentment gets us there, of what it says to us. Resentment is a complex negative emotion characterized by feelings of anger, bitterness, and indignation, often arising from, and this is it, perceived unfair treatment or injustice. You see, resentment whispers, that's not fair. You didn't deserve that. Why did they do that to you? You're so nice. You're so trusting. You were so why did they? And so as we look at this next part of the story, I just want you to look for the subtle voice of resentment that just possibly surfaced within Joseph. Remember verse 2, we're told that Joseph prospered. Verse 3, we were told that he experienced success. And then we get to verse 4, and this is what the storyteller tells us, that Joseph found favor in his eyes because of his attendant. Man, he found favor. I mean, this list is growing and building, and the storyteller's not done yet. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. And from the time he put him in charge of the household and all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. I mean, there was a blessing that got laid upon Potiphar because Joseph got up early. Joseph worked hard. Joseph was trustworthy. Joseph delivered. Joseph did his part. And God did his by blessing all that Potiphar owned. And the blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So Potiphar left everything he had in Joseph's care, with Joseph in charge. He did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now, this is quite remarkable in the story. I mean, it doesn't get rid of the hurt from betrayal. It doesn't get rid of everything Joseph has just gone through, everything that has just been severed in his life. It doesn't just dismiss it all. But Joseph had to kind of start feeling like, okay, in the midst of all this bad, I'm seeing some good come to the surface as he sees God do what only God can do, and as Joseph makes the best of a bad situation. And then if the story had a soundtrack, the music would shift, and all of a sudden we're told, now Joseph was well built and handsome. Now, if you've never heard this story before, right, you can feel the shift, right? It kind of has you leaning in a bit, going, whoa, okay, that's a different storyline. What's going on here? What's going on next? He's well built and handsome, and after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph. Now again, if you've never read this story, or maybe it's been years since you read this story, or maybe you read it once and you don't remember it, at this point, I'm just telling you, you all know what comes next. He's well built. He's handsome. And the master's wife sees him, takes notice of him, and then all of a sudden one day says, come to bed with me. Now this is clear. This is direct. It's not like one of those moments where Joseph could stand there going, oh, I think I misunderstood you. I think I misheard you. What did you really say? I mean, this was right smack dab. I mean, she smacks him between the eyes and is so clear, so direct in what she wants from Joseph. And immediately, Joseph refused. And he goes, with me in charge, he told her. My master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted into my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. I mean, I think this is like one of those deafening silent moments where Joseph just allowed it to linger as he stares at her in the eyes. It's like, hey, remember, you're married, and not to me, to my boss. Hey, you're married. This should never be happening. But Joseph doesn't stop there. He goes, how then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God? I mean, I have no idea if Potiphar's wife had any type of understanding of Joseph's God. But all of a sudden he goes, but I'm not going to sin against my God. And though she spoke to Joseph day after day after day after day, he refused to go to bed with her. And then we're told, or even be with her. I think he looked for every moment not to be in the same space, in the same room as her. I think he looked for every moment to bring in another servant. Remember, Joseph was in charge of everything. I think he brought in other servants and just said, no, you go talk to her. No, you help her with her bags. No, you help her in the kitchen. No, you help her. And I think he did everything he could to create distance from him to her. And one day, he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants were inside. She caught him by his cloak and said, hey, come to bed with me. But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. Joseph did everything right. Everything right. Think about it. He checked every box. In fact, this part of the story, I mean, it's a master class on how to engage with sin and get out of sin. It's a master class. I mean, think about what Joseph does. The number one thing, you got to know your no. Joseph right away knew his no. I'm sure before she even approached him and said, come to bed with me, I'm sure he knew it was coming his way. He saw the glances, he saw the looks, he saw how she changed her voice inflection as she talked to him compared to the other servants. I'm sure that all of a sudden he would walk by and she would just kind of graze his back. I mean, I'm sure he saw all of those signals, and he had his no ready in his pocket, and right when she came through the front door, so clear, so direct, he said no. Here's my question for you. Again, this is a master class on how to engage with sin and get out of it. Do you know your no? I don't know what that is for you. I don't know what sin is lurking in the shadows. I don't know what sin is trying to take you down. I don't know what sin is tempting you, but you do. Here's the question. Do you know your no? You got to have the no before it pounces. And Joseph had it ready. And that's why immediately he refused, which goes to the next step. You got to have guardrails. You got to establish guardrails. That's why we see all of a sudden he's like, I just refuse to even be in the room, in the space with her. You see, guardrails are there before the edge of the cliff. So you hit the guardrail before you go over the side of the cliff. That's what guardrails are. And we all need to have great guardrails in our life. Why? Because there's going to be moments we're tired, we're stressed, we're not thinking, we're not prepared, we didn't see it coming. All of those excuses, and all of a sudden sin is ready to pounce. And the guardrails keep us from going over the edge of the cliff, ruining our lives, ruining other people connected to us, because all of our sin isn't just self-contained within us. Our sin sends shrapnel into everyone else connected to us. And the closer people are to us, right, the more hurt, the more pain. Do you have the right guardrails established? My wife and I have put in guardrails in our marriage. I know her cell phone password, she knows mine. We use Find My iPhone. She always knows where I am, and I always know where she is. Always. So there's no secrets. All of our logins for all of our accounts are on one app that has all of our logins. She can get to it. I can get to it. Again, no secrets. Guardrail. It doesn't 100% stop me from doing something stupid, her from doing, no, it doesn't 100% guarantee. But what I'm telling you, those guardrails are massive guardrails to protect our marriage. What guardrails have you put in place? It leads to the third action, run. Sometimes having your no, having the right guardrails just isn't enough. Sometimes you just have to run. And Joseph immediately ran out of the house. Maybe for you right now, maybe you just need to run. Maybe you need to run away from. Maybe you need to run with your spouse to counseling. Maybe you need to run away from another relationship that you're talking a little bit too much to. Maybe you need to run away from something you're watching. Maybe you need to run away from something you're consuming. I don't know what that is, but sometimes the best action is to run. And Joseph runs out of the house. He runs out of the house. And we're told that when she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, she called her household servants and said, Look, this Hebrew has been brought in to us and to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. When he heard my scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. Do you see how close to the truth it is? But a couple of those key facts are so wrong, are so skewed. I mean, she got close to the truth, but she just put all the blame on Joseph. Well, Potiphar's wife waited until he came home from work that day. And when he came home, she had already rehearsed her speech. She did that with the other servants. She gave the same speech to Potiphar. And we're told that when Potiphar, Joseph's master, heard the story, his wife told him, saying, This is how your slave treated me. He burned with anger. And Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. And you would have to think, as Joseph sat in prison, he thought to himself, that's not fair. It's not fair. Hey, God, I did everything right. I mean, think about what Joseph has gone through. I mean, we looked at this list earlier, right? I mean, he's gone through a lot in a short amount of time. To add to this list, he's like, no, I told her no. She advanced at me. She came at me. She attacked me. I told her no. I did the right thing. I established guardrails. Hey, God, I did everything I could to avoid her in the house. And then that one day, she got me. And I still, God, did the right thing. I ran from her. Hey, God, it's not fair. You see, this is where resentment starts to set in. When something is unfair, when injustice happens. You see, we've all experienced these moments. When you do the right thing and it doesn't turn out right. So how do we navigate the divide that resentment causes? How do we navigate just spiritually, emotionally, mentally? When all of a sudden we're just sitting there going, this is not fair. I tried to. I gave my all. I'm not talking perfection, but I did everything I could in this relationship. And now I'm experiencing the hurt and the shrapnel and the divide. So here's my encouragement for you. In the middle of the bad, and maybe you're in the middle of the bad right now. Maybe you're in the middle of the storm right now, in the middle of the bad. And Joseph was in prison. That was bad. Here's my encouragement for you. You got to mind the good. You got to mine for the good. What was the good for Joseph? I don't know this answer specifically, but I was thinking about this a lot this week. What good could Joseph mine up as he sat in prison after he did all the right thing, after he got through the little pity party, which is just normal for all of us, the that's not fair pity party? What good do you think Joseph could have mined up? This was my list. I think one of the good that Joseph mined up was, you know what, I didn't repeat the sexual immorality that his dad Jacob did and that his oldest brother Reuben did. He actually course corrected a kind of a family chain of events, and he didn't choose that path like his dad, like his brother. That's good. I think another good for Joseph was that he protected a marriage. He protected a marriage. A marriage that Potiphar didn't realize was on the brink of collapse. A marriage where Potiphar's wife was trained to completely collapse the marriage. Joseph cared for that husband and that wife. That's good. Another good was Joseph honored God. He put God first. He's like, I'm not going to sin against God. He put that number one over even probably some of his own human earthly desires. He's like, no, I'm not going to sin against God. That's good. Know your no, guardrails, run, all of that, that's good. There's so much good in the midst of the bad, him sitting in jail, being accused of. You see, one of the go-to actions to help you overcome, to navigate through resentment, you got to practice gratitude. You see, resentment has us always looking back. That's not fair. I did everything right, and you. It keeps us looking back. And gratitude pulls us into the present and moves us into the future. Gratitude says, you know what? No matter how bad it is, I'm going to look for the good things in my life. I think about Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. That's gratitude. If you're struggling with resentment right now because someone did, I'm just saying, start to write down all the good that God is doing in your life. Where's the good? Mine up the good. Write it down. Stare at it. Focus on it. Read it every morning if you have to. But I promise you, if you pause, gratitude will pull you from looking back at all the things making you so resentful and help you to start to move forward. You see, the story continues, and listen to what we're told. But while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. And the warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. Divine sovereignty, God doing what God is so great to do, and human responsibility. Joseph kept his head up, gave his all, gave his best, was a man to honor God in his actions and in his attitude. So, just maybe what you need to hear today is this. What you're going through, God just might use. What you're going through right now, the bad you're going through. This is why gratitude is so important. This is why understanding your responsibility and God's part is so important. That just maybe what you're going through, and maybe it's not today, and maybe it's not next week, and maybe it's not next month. I don't know when, but I have talked with countless people that have come through a season of bad, and they mined up the good. And all of a sudden, God started to use their bad in their past to help people discover good in their lives now. I've seen it over and over again. So mine up the good. And just expect, have a heart, a position of your spirit to expect God to take all of that bad, hurt, pain, and watch Him use it for good. You see, I think about years later, as Joseph looked at his brothers, and he shared with them words that at some point along this journey, God breathed into his heart. That you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. You intended to hurt me. You intended to betray me. You intended to lie about me. You intended to, but God took that bad and leverage it for good to accomplish what is being done now, the saving of many lives. I encouraged all of you last week in part 2. In fact, if you were at one of our physical campuses, we handed out those cards. If you didn't get one, grab one today. I encourage all of you just to memorize this verse, to hide God's word on your heart. Allow these words, thousands of years ago, to guide you in your relational journey now. Just pray. Lord, I just ask that you'll be with every single person, the hurt, the pain that they're navigating in a relationship right now. And Lord, I just pray that they'll trust you, even in the it's not fair moments, even in the I did everything right moments. That God, you can use all of our bad for your good. Lord, may we mine up the good and focus what you are doing and how you're doing it. God, we trust that you are going to do your part. And God, may we do ours. In your name I pray. Amen.